Hello marine biology students. In this video we're going to talk about the organisms that live in the Mesopelagic. So below the epipelagic we have a layer known as the Mesopelagic. And the Mesopelagic still has some light, just not enough light for photosynthesis. The Mesopelagic is from about 200 meters to 1,000 meters. After the Mesopelagic, we have the Bathypelagic. The Bathypelagic is from about 1,000 to 4,000 meters. Next we have the Abyssopelagic. From about 4,000 to 6,000 meters. And then finally we have the Hadopelagic. Which is from 6,000 meters to as deep as up to 11,000 meters in certain trenches. Now the Bathypelagic, Abyssopelagic, and Hadopelagic collectively are known as the deep sea, and there is no light at all coming from sunlight reaching these areas. Life in the Mesopelagic and deep sea is reduced compared to other marine communities due to a reduction in the amount of food available, because there is no photosynthesis. In this perpetually dark environment, the energy has to come from the surface or from other sources. While food is limited, the amount of oxygen is not limiting in most areas of the deep sea, except for the top part of the Mesopelagic, known as the oxygen minimum zone. So in the Mesopelagic, the oxygen minimum zone exists where oxygen levels are reduced due to the absence of photosynthesis and atmospheric contact to replace the oxygen being used in respiration. So the respiration occurring in the upper Mesopelagic depletes the oxygen, but the amount of food and therefore the amount of respiration happening below that zone is significantly reduced, and so the oxygen levels are usually not depleted. The Mesopelagic lies just below the well-lit epipelagic. Many mesopelagic animals undergo vertical migrations, where their days are spent in the Mesopelagic, yet the nights are spent feeding in the epipelagic above. The main thermocline of the water column is found in the Mesopelagic, and so migrators must tolerate these changes. Changes in pressure must also be tolerated. Some of these vertical migrators from the Mesopelagic have a swim bladder filled with lipids instead of air. There are some zooplankton which migrate vertically, but there are some even deeper populations of fish that migrate vertically as well. Yet some of the residents of the Mesopelagic do not migrate at all. Non-migrators have different appearance and traits to migrating fish. Here we can compare a vertical migrator, like this lanternfish, to a non-migrator, like this dragonfish. You'll notice non-migrators do not have swim bladders. They typically have weak bones and flabby muscles, yet often they'll have large mouths and sharp teeth. Vertical migrators need to have more developed muscles to regularly make the swim between ocean levels. Shared traits between both migrators and non-migrators include well-developed eyesight. keep in mind that the Mesopelagic is not entirely dark. There just isn't enough light for photosynthesis. Most members of the Mesopelagic have photophores, which are used for counter-illumination. Just as counter-shading was used as a form of disguise or camouflage for the organisms of the Epipelagic, and we'll see that in some members of the Mesopelagic as well, counter-illumination includes the generation of light on the ventral surfaces to break up the silhouette of the organism when viewed from below. Counter-shading, dark pigmentation, or being transparent are also mechanisms used in the Mesopelagic. When we look at these non-migrating fish of the Mesopelagic, they often have weak bones, flabby and watery muscles, and no swim bladder. They tend to have large eyes, some of them even with tubular eyes, and typically with long, sharp teeth and large jaws, allowing them to feed on most prey, even prey that is larger than themselves. Here we see a variety of the Mesopelagic fish. Most of them are going to be smaller in size than your average epipelagic fish, although the long-nosed lancetfish can still grow quite large at over 2 meters in length. There are some other animals of the Mesopelagic, including zooplankton, like krill and copepods, as well as larger crustaceans, like shrimps, amphipods, and isopods. There are some cephalopods, including the vampire squid pictured here, although it's not exactly a squid because of certain modifications. Bioluminescence is also a shared trait. And that takes us to the end of our discussion of the organisms in the Mesopelagic. Now, before our next video, I'd like you to think about, where do you think your nightmares live? Chances are it's going to be in the next section of the ocean. We'll talk about that in our next video. See you then.